Perfect. Hi, Brent. Thanks for joining us. Court Square in Long Island City has seen significant residential development, with thousands of new residents and large buildings continuing to be built. Although the city has tried to balance the unplanned residential development by promising the Queens Public Library to reopen the closed branch in Citibank and budgeting $60 million for the new elementary school, there really hasn't been any real progress or updates from the SCA or Queens Public Library on the new school or reopening the library branch. So, as a council member that represents the neighborhood, what concrete specific steps can you do to prevent these scenarios from occurring in the future? And now that we're in the current situation, what concrete specific steps can you actually do to ensure that the city actually delivers its promise for the new school and the library branch?
Sure. Thank you. It's a great question. As you know, I founded and been running the Hunters Point Civic Association for 10 years now. And part of that has been fighting the overdevelopment and making sure that we have the resources. The big problem is the overdevelopment. So I'm proud to be the first candidate in the history of this district to not take money from real estate developers and lobbyists. I was also part of a group called Build Up NYC, which was a coalition of community groups and unions to make sure when builders come in and build, they actually bring the infrastructure with them. So the schools, the green space, fixing the sewer systems. So what we need right now is to stop all the spot rezonings. That's where the developers come in and just change a small city block. And we need a comprehensive plan for the whole district based on how many schools we need, the green space we need. But basically, I'm going to make sure that there is no development without the infrastructure. I do see places where we can develop parts of the Sunnyside Yards behind the Court Square Courthouse. So I'll be looking for places we can develop and then working with developers to do responsible development so we have everything we need for a healthy neighborhood here.
Great. No, thank you. The second question is, District 26 is made of diverse neighborhoods that are pretty segregated. Today families in one neighborhood live, eat, work, send their kids to different schools than other families. Since these communities often do not intersect, you end up with perspectives with one neighborhood describing LIC as filled with ghost towers and nobody living in them. And then the other perspective describes LIC as overcrowded with the lack of infrastructure for schools, sewage, and public space. So the question is, as the elected official for the overall district, how do you reconcile these perspectives in different communities to kind of ensure better connectivity, but also overall representation for the district?
Okay, that's great. Actually, it's interesting. I've been an honorary member of the Queensbridge Tenant Association since 2014, and the tenant leader over there has endorsed me. I spend as much time in Queensbridge as I do here. And actually, one of the plans I have is to develop the Annabelle Basin. And we're going to actually, the offer on the table right now is for 3 schools, an arts center, a walking bridge to Roosevelt Island. So I think that area is going to be a great way to connect Hunters Point, Court Square, and Queensbridge. And I don't know if you know, but my father grew up in Sunnyside and my grandparents immigrated to Sunnyside. So that's another community I'm always there, and I'd love to tie us in, especially the arts community, the small business community. Hopefully we'll create a better transportation infrastructure, more bikes, more walk paths, fixing the 7 train finally. I believe we should take the 7 train back from the state government and make it a city part. But I'm actually proud. My campaign is probably the most diverse campaign there is. We have probably the most ethnicities. We've been supported by Bengalis of New York City. My website is in Turkish, Romanian, Tagalog, Chinese, and Bengali. So yeah, I think we're going to celebrate the diversity of Long Island City. So I'm going to bring things here to tie all the communities together and celebrate being the most diverse place in the world.
Awesome. Thank you. So just 2 more questions. When Court Square was first envisioned, it was meant to be a commercial area, an extension of Midtown East. However, developments end up being large residential high rises, as we know. Today, Court Square is being positioned as a mixed-use neighborhood, right, with significant commercial development buildings like the Jacks, which is about 1 million square foot in office space, and InnoLabs, about a 250,000 bio life science building. So what are your perspectives on diversifying the building mixes, like commercial businesses within Court Square specifically, and if applicable, with what government tools, policies, incentives, or otherwise?
Okay, great. And, one of the reasons I started the Hunters Point Civic was because I want this to be a community where people come to raise their kids and retire. The city did plan it as a business district, but it didn't develop that way. So that was their mistake. So now we really need to get the schools, the green space, the libraries, and support the small businesses around there. So I realized the way it's developed, and that's one of the reasons I'm looking at the Sunnyside Yards as an area to develop to make sure it's a real neighborhood where people can raise their families. And yeah, I mean, one of the major issues for a city councilman is zoning and land use. So I'm going to use my power to make sure that this is the best neighborhood for families so that people want to stay here and reside here. So that's one of my big things. And that's why I didn't take money from real estate developers. I want people to know I'm only going to work for the neighborhood. I'm not going to work for any special interest groups.
Perfect. No, thank you. So just very last question. I saw an article in March. The question was really, who would be your number two ranked choice vote on this candidate in this election, right? And I saw in March you mentioned Stephen Braga as your number two choice. Is he still the number two choice? And maybe talk about why that is. And then I guess the extra bonus question is, who would be your ranked choice vote for the next mayor of New York City?
Ah, very interesting. Yes, it would still be Stephen. I believe in community service. I've been serving the community for 10 years. So besides the Hunters Point Civic, where I have, monthly meetings, food drives, street fairs, we do the Cancer Street Fair with the police. I do, I've started a food pantry during COVID. We fed 100,000 people. But that's why, Steve, we're actually board members together on Woodside on the Move, where we do after-school programs for the kids, tenants' rights advocacy, and senior services. So I think when you choose who your person is, you should see who has done the work. There are a lot of nice people running for office, but I have to say, living here for 10 years, I did not know any of them before they registered for office. So I appreciate when people run for office, but I think it can't just be words, it has to be action. So I would ask everybody to look for who's done the work. So besides myself, Stephen has been with me on Woodside on the Move, making sure all the kids get the resources they need. That's why I would back him. For mayor, that's a good question. I'd back Scott Stringer, and I want to see what's going to happen with the allegations. Probably second is Ray McGuire. I think he is a astute person. He has a great American dream story, making it up from working class to the head of a big company. And I think he'd have the ability to manage this. I come from a similar background. I was born to a working class family in Jackson Heights. From financial aid, I became an attorney, moved to Japan for 10 years, had a successful career as an international lawyer in Asia, and now moved back. And now I just want to do community service and make sure everybody has that same chance that I did with the American dream.
Great. No, thank you so much, Brent.